to keep things moving so we can get through this as quickly as we can. You certainly can applaud if you want. I would encourage you to hold your applause down. We know where you stand. And I don't know that it's helpful to cheer or applaud for the various speakers. Next up is Maria Palmer.
Thank you. I'm Nancy Hathcock. And no, I don't live in Rossmoor. I live in Westminster Village. But you know what? I'm a native Californian. I've been in Orange County since 1976. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for our people over in this area of Orange County to get some education that we all need. There is so much going on, not just here, but across the country about. I think we should do it, not be afraid. If you're afraid of your children getting caught up in something, keep them home. I've been.
Jeff, before you speak, this is actually a good opportunity. One of the directors, and upon my request, I asked our legal counsel to address that issue. As most of you know, my wife sits on the board of the County Board of Education. So I asked our legal counsel if he would weigh in as to whether or not I have a legal option, a legal requirement to recuse myself if the board votes on this issue. Tarquin, would you mind giving an update on that?
Certainly, thank you. I have reviewed the matter. There's no conflict of interest, either under Government Code Section 1090, which deals with contracts and financial interest contracts, or the Political Reform Act, which deals with financial interests in any action or any manner that comes.
A lot of shows with young kids and things, and a lot of the kids today don't know much about anything, to be honest with you. And I don't think it's the school's business to turn politics into education, because and I'm getting sick and darn tired of racist. Everybody's racist. Well, almost everybody's racist. People I know some racists. I know racists in all color. I grew up in East Los Angeles. And I can tell you right now that I'm getting darn sick and tired of it. These kids are graduating from school. Some of these kids don't know anything. I mean, nothing. And critical thinking, it doesn't even enter into their vocabulary for most of them because they haven't been taught. You talk about history, they don't know anything about history, and they don't care. There was a girl at one of the, was in my theater group. She was in a junior high school in Long Beach. And I asked her what her day was like, and she was talking about her classes. One of them was a whole period on sexual harassment. That's what she was getting at least once a week, a couple times a week, sexual harassment. Now, what the heck is that going to do for her when she gets out of school? And why do they even bring it up? It alienates her from boys and makes her think all men are predators. How stupid can you be to think about critical race theory and all of that garbage when you should be teaching them the basics?
Hi, my name's Marisa. I'm from Seal Beach, and I don't agree with the next town hall being here. I don't think this is the place for it. And then me being one of the only people of color in this room and having a daughter that goes to LaSalle, I do think it is very important for ethnic studies to be in the schools, especially with the racism that I have undergone. And also my daughter and a lot of her peers. I think that it's important for children to understand the cultures and the diversity of their peers. And in life, especially in the corporate world, you're going to have to learn it anyways. So thank you.
Thank you.
To Rossmoor Elementary, Oak Junior High, way back in the day, Los Alamitos High School. My roots are here. So in 2018, the Orange County Board of Education had a town hall. It had about 200 people inside, 100 outside. Orange County Register reported that there were clashes. I'm pro First Amendment. I think I've proved that over the past year. So I think it's important that this board is very transparent in what to expect in the upcoming town hall. We will have people that will disagree. We will have people that will be protesting, having signs, perhaps marching. And that's their First Amendment right. Do we want that here? Orange County Sheriff cannot give us a false sense of comfort that it's going to be super quiet and peaceful and everybody's going to get along. That's not what's happening. We're probably in our second civil rights era right now, whether anybody wants to admit that or not. That's where we're at right now. Do we want to bring this inside?
Personal experience with you in relation to our shared responsibilities, and I'm hoping you don't make the same mistake I did. The first goal listed under your mission statement is safety, and it's a common goal for all of us, especially those of us who teach in this district. Because of my and my colleagues' affinity for speaking at events like this one, not so much, students have sought our guidance. In March this year, many students came to me and a few of my colleagues and asked about the protocols and nuances of speaking at the LAUSD board meetings. Safety was assumed because safety is the first goal of all of the boards and all of the schools in our area. However, as Amy has already spoken to, and the facts will bear out if you look at the tape from Tuesday, April 13th, that's the day I'm going to remember as the day that that assumption of safety was shattered. Some of my former students were harassed, even touched inappropriately by people summoned to be agitators related to the topic the Orange County Board of Education is pretending to need a workshop for. Let's learn from that day and not pretend we can control the forces summoned to be here as agitators. I will never again consult and promote student speakers without attending and helping ensure their safety. This board is obliged to do what I did not for those students who sought my counsel. While it was never my job to be the protector of the students I counseled, it is your stated goal. Do not underestimate the forces you will be inviting to Rossmoor. And also consider.
Good evening. My name is Linda Fine. I live in Rossmoor, just 2 streets over, and I have been here for way over 30 years. I believe that this is an issue of our community, and if we want to take this issue, or those who want to take this issue to a broader forum should do so somewhere else. It's not so long, at a meeting in Los Alamitos at the over on Los Al Boulevard and or Catella. And that became very cantankerous, and it was very divided at the time. So again, I don't want that in my community. And I believe the issue has been decided.
Rossmoor. I'm here to talk to this Rcsd board and remind you of the things you already know. Most importantly, there is a huge security risk, and you've already heard many speakers talk about that. And just recently, and you know this as well, the Los Alamitos Unified School District had to create their board meeting on Zoom. They couldn't do this kind of meeting because the Los Alamitos police could not assure the safety, not only of the board, but the members that attended. And then I asked myself, why this event and why here? I believe it's pretty transparent. Director Barke and his wife, Mari Barke, on the Orange County Board are bringing this event to protest the decision that has been made by our locally elected school board, just as you're locally elected. The first time ever that the Orange County Board of Education has come down to Rossmoor to educate us. The Los Alamitos Unified Board has been trying to educate people for the last 6 months. The problem is people don't want to be educated. They want to be supported in the views they hold. And that's what's happening at this event. This is not going to be an event where all sides are heard. And if this board endorses this meeting, you have tacitly given your support to that against our local school district. And I think that is way, way out of what you are elected to do with the services you provide for us. So now it's your turn. 3 of you, hopefully all the board, could rescind this request and do the right thing, as you've heard from this community. I'm kind of cynical about my opinion in terms of what's going to happen tonight. I have a feeling that the cake is baked, but I'm hopeful that I'm wrong.
Thank you, Del. Your time's up.
Thank you.
More. So I think the reason why people usually don't like politicians is because politicians don't seem to care about what's best for the community and what's best in the community's interest. And I think in this case, it's very clear, keeping the community safe and doing things that are going to keep our community peaceful and calm, which is why people move to Rossmoor, is what's in the community's best interest. In this situation, transportation makes very little sense. I would also appeal to you to think about, if you let this meeting go through and don't think about public safety, there may be meetings where you politically disagree with them, but because of you not taking a stand now for public safety, you may have to let those meetings go forward. And I think that other people in the community need to think about that as well too, because if you don't stop this meeting for public safety, groups that you don't have an affinity for may want to come and have meetings here, and you'll have to let those go through, or else you'll be accused of being discriminatory. In addition, I've heard from many people saying they want to hear what the kids are being taught, but as other people have stated, our own board adopted different standards. And if this meeting was one where our board of the school was coming to talk about what they're teaching, I think more people would be supportive. But this just seems like an outlier board that has no power for our county at all, and they're just trying to assert a political position. So hopefully you will make the right decision. But I also say, if you don't and things go wrong, I hope that all of you who vote for this to continue will consider resigning. Thank you.
The informative meetings the next 2 months. I am one of these white supremacists that was there at the April 20th town hall meeting and at the board meeting. So I'm part of the well-funded, out of my pocket to pay for a flyer. I'm the white supremacist that held the meeting. There's no date and there's no reason to go all over Orange County. This is part of Orange County as well. I live in Long Beach, and from what I understand, 1/3 of the students in Los Al are from Long Beach.
Stacy Muller.
Hello, members of the board. Thanks for having me. And Marisa, you and I go way back, actually, don't we? And I'm one of the white supremacists, just so you know. And you're not the only Black person in the room, because we've got Harriet here. So, no, wait, I'm can talk.
Stacy.
So anyway. So I just.
Okay, please.
So I wanted to say that I think it's so.
Thank you for having me here today. And I would just like to say that I think it's really important for you to have the informative meeting that you're planning for July and August here in this community, because the Los Alamitos School Board has failed to inform the community what critical race theory is and what it means for their children. I think that a very big shock for the parents come September when their kids are lined up by color so that they can see. So this has already happened in Los Al. There were several parents that complained about it. Please watch the school board meetings and you will be informed that parents had their children lined up by color so that they could see how far they were on the privilege scale, I guess. So these are important things that
I'm Jane Boylan, and I lived in Rossmoor for about 40 years. I think Del Clark spoke eloquently and voiced most of my opinion. However, if you decide to go ahead and host this meeting, the Orange County Board of Education, I believe, has a position
strongly hope you present both sides of the issue. And that's all.
Thank you.
You guys here. It's a little short on women. Short on women, I think, or people of color. As a white woman, I understand where things are. I originally moved to Rossmoor when I came down here, but now I live in Los Alamitos. But my family, with my grandchildren who go to school, live in Rossmoor. And originally, when we had the issue of the anti-sanctuary, I thought, well, you know, we're having a discussion about different points of view, and I encouraged my grandchildren, who were very young at that time, to come and find out how government worked. They found out it worked by shoving people around, calling people beaners, gays, fags, and they were pretty traumatized. My granddaughter will not go to anything anymore, and she just turned 13. This was, do we want to say that brought these people here? I don't know. They were invited and they were violent. And I ended up on the Drudge Report, which I didn't even know what it was at the time. Recently, we went to school board meetings and there were people there who were opening their shirts up to show up their tattoos, making the sign. And Proud Boys were there. A 1%er was there. A couple of people who I know get paid because I see them everywhere. And this is what you're inviting into this little community where the children should be protected. The children from the schools, from junior high and high school, went to the school board meetings.
Time's up. Thank you.
You raised her.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Mark and I've lived in Rossmoor for only 15 years. And I've learned a ton about what the school district is planning. And so I'm kind of curious why other folks here are saying they don't know enough. I also am a professor, and it sounds a little bit to me like students who come to me after the semester is over and say, oh, is there anything else I can do? I can learn to get a good grade. It's like, well, we had lots of opportunities to hear about what the school is going to do. That's not even why we're here tonight. We're here tonight to discuss the idea of whether or not this room should be used for a purpose. And the point I want to drive home is twofold. One, it's not a necessary meeting to have this happen here because it's already been decided what's going to be taught. So the only people who want to be educated apparently are some of the parents who are here. They want to hold the information back from their children. It's like, well, it's okay for us to get educated, but it's not okay for our children to hear about this stuff. And so I think that's a really important concern that needs to be thought through as we consider the fact that if the meeting doesn't need to be here, and in the own words of the school board, it said they will use similar format to earlier community forums sponsored by the OCBE regarding procedures, protocols, practices, respect, and civility. Well, they've had all their meetings online, and there's a lot more space online than there is in this room. So why would we put it in this room when there is a chance for the safety concerns that need to be addressed to come to a bad end? No one looks good with egg on their face, right? So I think it's a chance for you to consider the safety issues in a meeting that doesn't need to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Sachs, and I am a resident of several years since 1975 of Rossmoor. Both my kids grew up here, both through the Los Alamitos School District. They graduated from Los Al High. They got an excellent education, wonderful education. And one of the subjects they studied was American history, lacking the study of the groups that made this country so great, the panoply of people who came from so many different places to contribute to what this country has become, is something that was lacking in their education. I don't see why students from the high school should be deprived of that element of education about history. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Harumi and I live in Cyprus, and I'm here to wholeheartedly support the effort of Orange County Board of Education to bring to our community this public expert forum on July and August to explain about critical race theory. The citizens and constituents in this area and the Orange County needs to be educated by experts on the subject of what critical race theory is all about. They can give any pretty name as you want: social justice standard, ethnic studies. They're all one and the same: critical race theory.
Please.
It's just a tool used by a Marxist movement to turn our young into social justice warriors and use them for their movement. A local forum in this subject is very much needed in this community, and I thank very much for bringing this forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bob Bond. I live in Rossmoor. I do not want this meeting in Rossmoor, and you should not either. I have 3 daughters. My youngest daughter just graduated from Los Alamitos High School. I'm very proud of the fact that she was very active in trying to encourage and get the ethnic studies class to be approved. And on April 13th, she was one of the students who was at that meeting who Mr. Sells commented about. She was harassed, she was inappropriately touched, and she left in tears with someone chaperoning her to the car. Is that how we want our kids who grow up in this community to be?
Mr. Bond, if you could address the board,
I'm
that'd be
addressing
great.
the community. You're part of the community. This is it. So that's not what we want. Ethnic studies is the course. It's not CRT. There's so much propaganda and garbage about CRT that's coming in around here, and it's being encouraged in some of these events. I saw a flyer at the last meeting that was talking about that. People are talking about, that's not what this is. Why are we bringing people here to talk about this in an open forum? We voted for the Los Alamitos school board members. We voted for the Rcsd school board or board members. And guess what? We want you to stay in your lane, and we want them to stay in their lane. They did their job. Now don't have this meeting. That's getting out of your lane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely in favor of you having the meeting here for one word: transparency. Everything I've seen tonight indicates a program of disinformation. The issues of safety and violence have been overflated. And actually, any violence that I've seen, that I was actually a part of, somebody had pepper sprayed my truck. There was a BLM activist because I was against it, the board. So any violence is not coming from the people that are wanting to know more about critical race theory and what's really going to happen. They're coming from the ones that want to force this into the district. This was.
Good evening, Scott Miller. I'm a 33-year resident of Rossmoor. My children grew up here and went to school here. And it's interesting, we hear some people say, well, there wasn't any violence. And we hear lots of people get up and say there was violence, and there was rowdy behavior. And we know that the Los Alamitos Police Department was extraordinarily concerned about the violence and the nature of the attendance at this meetings, that they told them not to have it in person. So I don't think there's any doubt but that this meeting is going to attract very passionate people from both sides of the aisle. And violence is violence. It doesn't matter whether they say they did it or they say they did it. It's violence and it's threats. And the safety to this community is of paramount importance. So when I look at a tough decision, I always look at the question and say to myself, look at the facts and see how that might inform my decision. So what makes this the right place? It's an auditorium that can hold 400 seats. Okay, that's great. That's not much very strong in favor of it. We heard in the newspaper that one member of the board lives in the community. Therefore, it's convenient to have it here. That's not a very strong reason either. What makes it the wrong place? The wrong place is the far northwest corner of Orange County, and the meeting is supposed to be for all students of Orange County schools and their parents. So to hold it in Rossmoor is the equivalent to say we're going to have a national meeting to talk about election reform, and we're going to hold it in Bangor, Maine, and everybody can come because it's a great place to go. And that just makes no sense whatsoever. It's the center of a suburban neighborhood which has no police force. So we're going to be relying on the Orange County sheriffs to come in and fortify our neighborhood with police presence. That's very unusual and very unlike what we're normally having here. And we're at a park where there's going to be children playing, and there's going to be people here all during the day that are here for protesting, for making noise, for making violence, or whatever it is they're going to do. It is just completely inappropriate place for this to be taking place. The nature of the meeting, the location of the meeting is going to ensure that the only people that primarily attend are the people who are the most passionate. People are going to be the most likely to cause problems. And I suggest that rejecting the meeting is the appropriate course for this board to
Thank you.
preserve public safety. Thank you.
My name is Josh Siller. I'm a resident here of Rossmoor. I was born, raised here, went to all the schools in the district, very familiar with the area. I have to be honest, it's downright ridiculous this topic has even come this far. The RCSD are elected officials whose sole purpose are the betterment of Rossmoor and its residents, not OC, not SoCal, just Rossmoor. It is the responsibility of this board as elected officials of the residents of Rossmoor to listen to its constituents and come to a conclusion of what is seen as best for Rossmoor. With that said, why are we even here tonight? The RCSD has no control over LaSalle Unified, no professional connection to the OCBOE, nor were they elected to attempt to be involved in any sort of granular educational decisions such as this. What benefits will my fellow residents of Rossmoor see by having the meeting here instead of somewhere anywhere else? The ability to walk instead of drive for the couple blocks of houses nearest here, that's ridiculous. This meeting will drive in the extremes from both sides of politics, left and right. This meeting is imparting a higher level of risk than any other meeting being proposed for our little auditorium here. Is the RCSD okay with accepting this increased risk to the detriment of myself and all the other residents of Rossmoor who live only a stone's throw away from this park? If violence does break out, guess what the #1 search result on Google will be when somebody searches for Rossmoor? When a potential homeowner sees what was allowed to happen in Rossmoor, what effect will that have on the demand for housing in our neighborhood? If demand goes down, what happens to our home values? Now remind me again, why are we taking this risk? Why is the RCSD even considering this risk? Myself and the other residents of Rossmoor are not requesting that the event be canceled, simply asking it not be held at this small residential auditorium near our homes. There are many commercial properties throughout OC that are better prepared to deal with the inherent risk of holding such an event. It's not ours or the RCSD's responsibility.
Time is
by
up.
location.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I agree with the
Sorry, Sue.
gentleman, a few gentlemen minutes ago that said the purpose of this meeting is to decide whether or not or discuss to have the meeting here in Rossmoor. Why are you thinking of having it in Rossmoor? We're going to hold the meeting at the high school. Somehow word got out to Fox News, which brought in some interesting elements that people knew were going to cause trouble. So they canceled it and did the Zoom meetings. In all reality, everybody realize you're going to have Antifa here. You're going to have Black Lives Matter here. It's the ones, they have like a green light, a thumbs up to cause violence. Nobody's stopping them. So if one person gets injured here, one kid gets injured here, that's going to hold some heavy weight on you guys' shoulders. And for the police officers, a lot of respect for the police I have. But there's so much out there that is unforeseen that no matter what you say, you can't prevent the unknown. Different cities, different counties. Don't be fooled. It's coming here if you bring it here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have been a Rossmoor resident for 50. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry. Thank you. This is Brenda Gorman. and I have been a Rossmoor resident for 51 years. I spearheaded along with others the saving of Rush and Rossmoor Park. The intentions at the time was for Rossmoor to have a place for all to enjoy and a site that could be available as a park and another school site if needed. I oppose the use of our facilities to outside groups. I always understood from the onset of this conversion from an elementary school to this wonderful park that this facility was for the use of Rossmoor. I understood that in order to get a permit, you must be a Rossmoor resident. I do not think that the intentions of this facility was meant to be for a large controversial event that includes extensive media coverage. I have several questions that I would like the board to answer. One is, why is this the location chosen when it is the furthest removed from most of Orange County? This is not a meeting according to what I read for Rossmoor. This is a meeting for all of Orange County. We are the furthest removed from any Orange County location. Rossmoor is a quiet bedroom community and is not an appropriate place to hold this meeting. Safety, parking, noise, etc. How much insurance coverage is required for this event? Does this coverage cover our homes, etc., in case there's damage? If you care about Rossmoor and our peaceful lifestyle, you'll not approve this permit. The OC Board of Education will be able to easily find a suitable location. I also want to say that the Los Alamitos School Board had many public meetings. I wonder how many of the people on our RCSD board, especially Dr. Barke, attended those meetings.
Brenda, your time is up. Thank you so much. Appreciate your input. I'd like to ask Captain Knutson if he could address the board as well. Obviously, sir, there's been some questions about security and the role of Orange County Sheriff's Department.
So that is our goal. That is our role. It's still pretty early in any type of planning phases for this because the meeting is about a month away. At this point in time, we don't know of any known agitators. We haven't seen any information on social media, open source type reporting that there would be any type of persons here that would be causing any problems. However, obviously I can't guarantee that, those folks won't show up. I've received a lot of emails from the community members and I'm completely sympathetic to, their concerns having in this particular type of location. I think they're very valid concerns. We definitely will take those into consideration through the planning process when we determine what.
Anything out, and you're satisfied that this event can be held, and that the sheriff can control it based on your conversations?
As of today, yes.
Okay. This about the second venue you had, Dr. Williams had discussed earlier the possibility of holding one in North County and one in South County. Have you been investigating that possibility?
Yes, we are looking at this time for a second venue for the August 24th meeting. As I shared with you earlier, the difficulty and the challenges securing facilities that you can meet the Brown Act requirements of audio and video live streaming. And the costs, of course. So we are looking at it, but at this time it's difficult to secure that. We had always anticipated coming here, so that process would have to begin. We meet once a month, so the next meeting that would have to be broached and brought up with my colleagues.
Okay. You understand that if we hold the first meeting here and there are incidents and that the board could reconsider whether then to continue the permit for the August hearing. You said we're very early in the planning process, but a lot of people here tonight want to know that we're not rolling the dice here. And I want to know that we're not rolling the dice. So what
as far as my comments in regards to the early stages of the planning, generally with these types of incidents, we get notification of it usually just a few days prior. So we make a plan pretty fast. We've activated all of our resources, our intelligence units to start gathering that information. So
you're confident that you're going to have the resources to be able to handle it without incident, without violence?
Well, I can't make 100% guarantee, obviously, because I can't predict the future.
Would you be in a position to tell us if you were uncomfortable, either now or as information developed a week or 2 weeks from now?
Right. That's a tough question. You're asking me a personal response, and I'm not here in a capacity of, to give you my personal opinion. I'm here as a representative of the Sheriff's Department, and the Sheriff's Department, part of our values and our goal and our directive is to ensure the rights of everyone and ensure public safety. And part of our objective is ensure people's rights to, constitutionally free speech. So if as a law enforcement officer, I stopped doing everything that I was uncomfortable with, I probably wouldn't do anything, right? So
that's fair. And if we get a lot of internet chatter, what happens then?
Well, that's where the plan is adjustable based on what type of information and intelligence we're gaining. So we can increase or decrease based on that information.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys for letting me up here via Zoom. It's a little late in Indiana, but thank you.
Sorry about that.
I can't see the podium, so I can't tell if Captain Knudsen or Dr. Williams is there now. I'll start with Captain Knudsen. Thank you, sir. Prior to the review you've had so far, have you reviewed Los Alamitos Police Department's file and how they addressed their decision to have their meeting online?
Yeah, I've been in conversation with them over the past couple of weeks in regarding to the previous meeting I shouldn't say incident, but the I guess the planned meeting they had, and then it went to Zoom. So yeah, I've been in communication with them.
Okay, but do they provide you a file? I mean, substantively, beyond conversation?
I'm unaware of any particular type of file on the event.
Okay, so I'm just curious because I hear all kinds of stories. I'm sure you know how that way it feels. Everyone has a story, and to hear that there were Antifa or Proud Boys or 3%ers present would seem to be something that you would want to substantiate it, if I'm not correct.
Whether they were present at that event?
Yeah, or that they were saying that they were going to attend the events that were ultimately moved to Zoom.
Yeah, other than my conversations with them, and then telling me that those types of individuals were there, I don't have any particular type of case file or anything on the incident.
But they did mention that as being some of the issues they were concerned with?
Correct.
Okay. And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And then for Dr. Williams, if he's available still.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Williams. So I just have to ask probably the most obvious question, but why not have this event by Zoom? Did you hear me? I asked
I did
why
hear
you
you.
hadn't.
I was just
Okay.
waiting. I was just waiting for the moment until the clapping. To have a meeting on Zoom, I think hurts the community in the impact of the information that has to be given. I, as you know, have the last 18 months, like this board here, we have been on Zoom, and I think the information and the ability to transmit educational ideas, concepts, and facts about any topic, especially this very complex topic, a Zoom is very hard to tolerate and absorb all of the information.
All right. I guess I misunderstood something then, because you'd said that one of the parts to why you were looking forward to it was you mentioned educators could watch online. But so I guess then my following through with this is, this is a passionate topic, right, sir?
This is a topic of great controversy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of information that I've heard here this evening on both sides that is incorrect. And because this has an impact upon our children.
Right. So I'm looking at your kind of agenda here, and you're looking at an hour of public comment. And I mean, tonight we gave our speakers 2 minutes each. And so you're looking at 30 speakers getting time to speak out of your 300 to 500 guests. And I gotta say that I'm not quite sure I understand why this particular forum is better live when you're gonna be, unfortunately not able to reach many people.
30 minutes of public comments that we were going to allow at the beginning. As you know, in any sort of public forum, the Brown Act requires public comments at the beginning and at the end. And that's been our protocol for at the County Board of Education.
When will the meeting terminate then? Because as a residential community, it's critical that if we have 500 guests in our community, we got to have closing time, as the bars say.
Correct. And those are the details that Mr. Mendoza and I will be working out. It's been brought up about the total number of deputies that will be brought in, and that number will be up to Captain Knutson and whatever Mr. Mendoza feels is appropriate for this.
I thank you. I had one more question for Captain Knutson. I apologize, I forgot something.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
Thank you again, Captain. Question I forgot to ask was, I mean, logistically, I live on the park's perimeter. What kind of issues are you able to address with the staffing size of a park that has no fence?
Oh, a park, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part. A park that what?
Has no fence. There's no perimeter wall. It's open space. I will admit I've been to a couple concerts where things got a little unruly, and it was rats fleeing the barn, as I would say, and growing up here. What's the safety that we can expect in the community if there's no perimeter you can keep?
Yeah, that's a good question. Every event that I've been involved in, any type of crowd control situation or pre-planned event, they all present their own unique challenges. And I wouldn't be upfront with you if I didn't tell you that this location presents some pretty significant challenges.
I have a couple of questions for the captain. Sorry, you just walked away. I see at the last board meeting that we had sheriffs deployed here, and we have sheriffs deployed tonight, other than yourself. Why did that happen?
Well, I think knowing that this was going to be a topic of discussion, this meeting and then the previous meeting, I felt it was prudent to at least have a representation of the sheriff's department here, just to give comfort to those that are here at the meeting. I appreciate the community's involvement up here in this community. In comparison to a lot of other areas I've worked, they're very involved and they're very passionate about where they live. And I can appreciate that. And I understand their concerns. And I think it's important that they know that their concerns are important to the sheriff's department. And we're
In the last couple of years. I know last year was COVID, so it's a little bit hard, but maybe the year before.
Probably a handful. Yeah, I mean, we have one coming up, I believe, with the Heroes Award coming up, and that happened pre-COVID. But yeah, there's probably a handful.
Just a handful. How many of those have you been part of the pre-planning for to ensure the safety of the community?
At this Rossmoor location?
Yeah.
None.
Okay.
So special events, you've been at our winter festivals, right?
Yeah, I've been to several events here I participated in is either a deputy or a sergeant, but none in this capacity, you know. at this point.
And during, let's just say, our winter festival, do you remember how many deputies you would bring to our winter festival?
I think for those type events, we're probably looking maybe a half a dozen.
So about 6.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, you come up with that number prior to the event based on any kind of intel. Now, again, it's a Christmas festival, so you don't think that anything's going to happen, but you never know. We have thousands of people coming to our Christmas.
The elves might be drinking, you know?
You're exactly right. So anyways, you assess that the same way. And certainly if any special event has circumstances that you feel are going to need more deployment, like you said in your earlier statement, you have access to, the resources of the Orange County Sheriff, right? On this particular night, what night of the week is this?
I believe it's a Tuesday.
Tuesday. So I guess how many Orange County Sheriff are working in Orange County on a given Tuesday?
Well, it wouldn't be a fair answer to your question because we're talking a special event. We're going to not use the deputies that are already working patrol capacity or other capacity. So it's really not relevant to answer the question, to answer your question.
If there was a major issue, if there was.
So any comments about the LoSal decision versus how the sheriff's department would handle such a thing?
Well, I think the difference there is you have the LoSal Police Department working for the Los Alamitos City Council. So that's a component, and they're in a position where they can give their opinion on that type of situation. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position where I can give my opinion. I'd have to, that would have to be deferred to the sheriff himself to give that type of opinion.
And would you expect to use reserves? Asking for a friend.
Well, we do have a rather large reserve. I don't know the actual breakdown of the reserve bill, but I do know a lot of them are assigned to the what's called the sheriff's response team that does do a lot of these mobile field force.
The forums you've held in the last 5 years, how many have resulted in physical altercations on site?
As far as physical altercations or injuries, none that I'm aware of. Have there been people of differing sides on the particular issue, especially the California Healthy Youth Act? Yes, that was one that was unexpected. We had the Orange Unified Teachers Union organize a protest, and then we had a Black Lives Matter professional protester come to lead that protest.
And you approached hotels and other venues a convention center type environment.
I'm sorry, sir, could you repeat your question?
You approached hotels, convention centers, other places that are used to having large events who already have their security built into their operations?
Well, that's a good question. So part of the venues that we've looked at, they don't have any of the video equipment or any of the Brown Act requirements. So that would be an additional significant cost that would be borne upon the County Department of Education. Yeah, we could consider that, but that would be, again, a decision that's outside of my purview. As you know, the Brown Act requires the entire board to make that decision. And at this time, we just don't have that information available. We had always anticipated.
Sorry, I apologize, but you're aware that the video crew that's there today is not an RCSD employee.
That is correct. And the County Department of Education will be picking up any of the fees or costs associated with the video equipment. I assume you use an outside vendor, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that same outside vendor, since they're used to this facility, we would certainly use them for our meetings.
Okay. I got nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. Director DeMarco?
I don't have any.
Okay, no further questions. Joe, do you any other further comments?
No, none at all.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, and that is to approve the holding of these
Do we
two
not get to make
forums.
comments?
We can talk. If there's a second, then we can discuss it.
Thought we were gonna have time just to comment.
Well, we can
Before we,
go
I
ahead.
was just asking because I'd said before I had comments to make.
The
Questions.
the
and I was holding
comments
off
could
on
be
them.
part, if there's a second, then there'll be a discussion until we call the question on the motion.
If there's no second, then there's no point.
So
in
the
talking.
motion is to allow the forums, the two forums, with the request, not the requirement, but with the request that the county board look to find another venue so as not to hold two here for the August 24th forum. So that's the motion, to approve with the request, but not the requirement, to look and do due diligence to try to find a second venue that could accommodate the needs of the board.
Not to, so have the first, not to. I will, if you amend it to say that only one in Rossmoor, I'd approve.
Okay, so let's approve one in Rossmoor. And we can revisit the approval of the second one at the next board meeting.
I don't want to.
But I'll amend the motion to, I'll amend my motion to be that we'll approve the first forum to be held here on July, 27th? Just to approve the first. We're not denying the second, we're approving the first. And then we can have further discussion and approve the second at a next board meeting. And that'll give you guys an opportunity as well to look for a second venue.
I'll second that one.
Okay. Discussion, Director Rips.
Thank you, Director Barke. And first of all, I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight and expressing their thoughts and concerns and sharing those people from Rossmoor and those people from other communities. I really appreciate. And for those of you who reached out to me via email and phone calls, I also appreciate you taking the time and to sharing that with me. I want to say that, we are here, I think, to make a decision on whether an event should happen here or not, to approve a rental or not. What other side you are on a topic is not necessarily important to the decision of this. It's whether we should just have that event here. And that's really what I have been thinking about and what I've been listening to from everybody here that's been speaking. I think it really comes down to sort of the bottom line, like, what are we here for? We are here to serve the betterment of the Rossmoor community and the Rossmoor citizens, period. It doesn't go further than that. And somebody asked earlier, I believe, if not here, where? I don't think that's a relevant question to me as a director of the Rossmoor Community Services, right? For me, it's whether it's here or not. If it's not here, then it's somebody else's responsibility to determine where that needs to be. And so that for me is what is important, sort of driving what I'm thinking about. I think the interesting thing is many people have talked about the safety and security. And I know that we were a divided group here, and it doesn't really matter if it was 70-30, 50-50. So many people in our community are concerned about having this event here that is almost irresponsible for us to not respond. This is not about transparency. This is not about wanting people to have a conversation. This is not about wanting people to learn, because I support that. What I need to do is figure out what's best for our community. And what I think is best for our community is providing a safe and secure environment. And I think by showing the intuition of our sheriff, of the captain, that he feels that we need to have sheriffs here just for meetings. Thank God nothing happened, and I appreciate that. But that is showing to us that there is enough concern, not just with our residents, but also with them. I think it goes also deeper than that to me. I spent 13 years working on college campuses, and I was involved with a lot of very controversial issues on those college campuses. And through my experience, I found that anytime that people were alerted that media was coming prior to an event, the event had more higher level of incidents than not. And I'm not a police officer, but I was there for 13 years and I saw it and lived it. And the fact that we're promoting that we're having a news media event, to me, is telling the world, come here and be part of whatever is going to happen. I think it's a little bit to say that only 300 people are going to be here, I think is really, I don't know. I don't know where you're coming up with that number. I think that there is also another level to this. And I understand we had a conversation earlier. People were talking about conflict of interest. Clearly I do understand there is absolutely no legal conflict of interest. I do think perception is important. And I think sometimes perception is more important than reality. I think optics are really important. And I'm looking at here and I'm seeing the Board of Education bringing a topic here that is going against our local education. That's not a partnership. That doesn't feel right to me. There's something going on there. I think that the fact that, even though, again, not a legal conflict of interest, but that your wife is on that board and you're on this board and you're here making the motion, didn't even let somebody else make the motion, the optics are not great. Legally, I totally get it. I appreciate the response, but I'm speaking on what I think is right for our community, whether you're for it or against. I'm just here doing what I think is right for our community. And hear that. I think there is a conflict. You had an opportunity to encourage our community to come out and speak your mind, but you turned it more political. And you said, there's going to be people here on the left. You need to come out to your people, whatever that is. You need to come out and speak against them. So you're taking our community, this is supposed to be about our community, about parks, about trees, about the roadways, a non-political environment. And you chose to use your position for something that's political, and that's totally out of the bounds of what we're supposed to be doing. So that, to me, it's a conflict, and you're living that conflict. And so the optics of this are not good. So again, I don't really care what the topic is. I care about the people in our community are concerned about this, and enough people have spoken about that to me, it's irresponsible for us to think that we should do this. And I'm sorry that I didn't have the opportunity to make the motion to not have this, and that you jumped the gun. Again, optics, not so great, but if it's predictable, it's preventable. And the sheriff is saying, there's something going on. I want to have people here. They're predicting, and I think that we should prevent. And so we should absolutely not have either one of these events here. And that's my vote, and that's my statement.
Nathan, if you're there, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, thank you. I definitely want to thank the community who spoke tonight. I want to thank Joe for his work, to Dr. Williams for his attendance and answering our questions, and the community, anymore. I thank you and all the officers. I love the moment when I get to see officers driving through the neighborhood and knowing you're protecting us, and how fortunate we are to have you serving. So thank you. With that, I do want to say, it concerned me when Captain Knudsen, when asked about, how he felt about the safety of the event, that he couldn't talk unequivocally about safety, but also had to make sure that, as he's required, that he also would be there to protect the rights of free speech. And we're able to decide tonight to not allow this event because it's unsafe. And what I can't guarantee, and what he can't guarantee, is whether it's going to be a safe event. We can't control that a protest could overflow into the parking lot, and that's not a permit situation we have, but it sure as heck would be a free speech situation we'd have to interact with right away. Unfortunately, Captain Knudsen's got to give us the safest possible manner to allow free speech. If that's the line at which we have to decide whether we should have an event in our facilities, I think that we're saying, safety isn't our priority. If we're saying it's only as safe as a possible manner, and taking concerns into consideration isn't a standard enough. We need to be safe. That's the standard. So I'm struggling to see how we're anywhere near giving someone a permit for all these uncertainties and the safety. You know, we had a speaker who spoke, James, I don't know his last name tonight, and he talked about how there was violence against him at the school board meeting. So it's someone who's saying that there isn't violence expected, but also there was someone who said, yeah, I experienced violence. My vehicle was vandalized. And, you know, I live in the community. I don't want to see my car vandalized, but I don't see any car vandalized. We represent the community. We have, you know, 8,000 voters in Rossmoor. Those are our constituents who are voting for us. And as much as the sheriff can care about us, we're a small part of his constituency. Captain Knudsen kind of spoke to that in local governance when he expressed how the Los Alamitos City Council decided not to be concerned with the police department and to have their meetings, you know, encouraging the school board to go to a Zoom because they're locally governed. And we don't have local governance in this situation regarding our safety. That is not something we can control. It's going to be contracted out at best. And, you know, I know there's going to be safety, you know, they're going to do the best they can, but they're not going to have a line at which we know security is going to happen. And just the last thing I have to say is, you know, we had a speaker, I believe she said she was from somewhere around Westminster, who said, and I have to say this, it just shocks me that if I want to keep my kid at home to be safe, that's what I should do. It's my park, ma'am. I don't care. My kid does not need to stay home and away from a park so that she can be safe, so an event can be held at an auditorium that our community owns, at a park that our community owns. So if that's the standard, is someone telling me they want to attend an event, and if I need to be safe, I need to stay home from my community, my facilities, that is not safe. And this is someone who says it's going to be safe, but if not, well, you should have stayed home. That, I'm sorry, gentlemen, but you can't say that that's the reason we have to fight to have an event, is because the people who are coming say, let's be safe by keeping our kids at home. So with that, I don't see the event to be a safe event that can be held in our community. It's not a facility that's laid out for it. As I said, there's no perimeter that can be held. We spend so much time in our meetings talking about safety, parking, and traffic. And this particular event fails all three of those ambitions of ours. And I will not be voting in support of this event. Thank you.
Director DeMarco.
Well, I too thank everyone for showing up, and it seems like you're either on this side or this side in terms of the content of this meeting. And this is just my opinion. I've been living here since 2005. I think our safety is very, very important. But at the same time, I think that a public entity should be able to come into Rossmoor and rent our facilities. I see no credible threat at this time to not allow a public board to come in and hold a seminar for our residents and for Orange County. And I know half of you disagree with that and may not like me for that opinion, but I just don't, it sets a precedent now that we should look into the content of what's going to be here, because perhaps maybe there's going to be a threat. I would ask Mr. Mendoza if the day before of this event, perhaps maybe there's be a threat. And I would do the same thing if there was a credible threat, but I have a lot of faith in the sheriff's department. I know that when we've had problems in the past, they don't come one or two, they come 20 or 40. So I'm very confident with any threat that, or anything that happens at any festival that we do, even the one last Saturday, if there was a problem, I know there would be 40 sheriff's deputies here. And I know that, you know, it's, again, Los Al keeps coming up with the school district. You know, Los Al doesn't have 40 officers. So I'm looking at the issues were safety, the issues were parking, and we've accommodated the parking because we accommodate them when we have our festivals here for parking. Safety, until I hear that there is a threat to Ross, accommodate them when we have our festivals here. For
Well. For you, not for me. Just so we're clear on
really
that.
happy that you're going to be.
Well, I do want to thank everybody for attending and for your comments, and I was listening closely. There was quite a bit that, frankly, to me, isn't relevant to our decision here tonight. I don't care what the Orange County Board of Education is going to be discussing. That has nothing to do, it shouldn't even be on the permit application any more than when we let the church appear here, churches, or any other group that we ask them what's going to be on their agenda and who might not like what you're saying, or who might like what you're saying. Somebody commented that the Rossmoor board needs to stay in our lane. Well, that's exactly where we're staying tonight. Where our sole mission tonight is to decide, well, that's exactly where we're staying tonight. Where our sole mission tonight is to decide not who's right and who's wrong, not whether critical race theory is good or bad, or whether the ethnic studies program is or is not critical race theory. That is all interesting discussion, but it's not what we're deciding. What we're deciding is whether an applicant who has filed an application that has been approved by the general manager is going to have their application approved or denied. Somebody commented that the decision has already been made, and I have to say that was wrong, because I'm still not 100% sure on how I'm coming out. I'm listening closely, not only to the audience, but to my colleagues here.
And Director Rips, you're incorrect. This has nothing to do with politics for me. The problem
You
here.
made it politics when you asked the people to come out against the people on the left. You specifically said that.
I'm sorry. I'm commenting. I didn't interrupt
But if you're
you.
commenting
I
towards
didn't.
me,
I didn't interrupt you.
I understand.
Thank
but
you.
You're making a comment, and I'm just telling you you're incorrect.
I'm responding to your comments. So I'd appreciate you not interrupting me.
All right. Well, then I
Thank you.
asked for response afterwards.
We have a pro-life church that rents this auditorium every week. And if there were pro-choice people that came out and made a lot of noise and were upset about us allowing such an organization to rent the space, we wouldn't want to be influenced by that. So my concern is that that group, which is the loudest, thinks that that's going to have the most influence, and that's not correct and that's not right. And this is a very simple issue in my mind. It has nothing to do with CRT. It has nothing to do with ethnic studies. This is a public auditorium that anybody can rent. And we have a duly elected Board of Education that represents the wide geography of Orange County. There's 5 members of this board, and they voted, the majority voted to allow this educational forum to go forward. It's an educational forum. It's not a decision-making body. They're not deciding on the curriculum for any school district. They're not deciding on any curriculum that needs to be instituted. They're simply providing an educational forum. And whether it's critical race theory or any other topic that's relevant to education, I think it's a wonderful opportunity because I'll bet half of you here don't really understand even what CRT is. And to be able to have a panel of academic experts, and a bipartisan panel as I understand it, to provide academic information to the community, local community, wide community, about this important topic that's coming to a school near you, I think is really important. It's not about the topic for me. It's about simply, we have a beautiful auditorium. We have an opportunity to allow a duly elected county board who has requested permission to rent this. And if we make a precedent to say no, then the next group that comes in is going to be coming before the board as well, because now we will have set the precedent